The complex mix of challenges facing humanity require a variety of solutions, both on a global and a local level.
There are people who are born in refugee camps, live in refugee camps, get married in refugee camps, and give birth to refugee children.
Dr. Khaled Khalifa is Senior Advisor and Representative to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Thank you, Dr. Khalifa, for joining us today. Please tell us, what is the area of your expertise that you will be discussing here today at COP16?
Thank you very much for having me. I wear two hats for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. I'm a senior advisor to the High Commissioner, and I'm also the representative to the governments in the Gulf Cooperation Council, the six governments here. Our participation in COP16 focuses on the link between environmental degradation, land degradation, and the displacement, because we are seeing a big impact for many things that happen in the world on displacement per se. So climate affects displacement, conflict for 100% affects displacement, but also land degradation and the soil degradation affects displacement, and this is our unique interest in COP16.
Can you go more into the specifics, how it affects?
For example, if people do not have enough crops where they live, they will have to move. If people do not have enough water where they live to irrigate their land and maintain and sustain their livestock and maintain their livelihood, they look for other places. By default, of course, if there is conflict, people move for safety. So they escape to go for safer areas. So we are seeing more and more links beyond the conflict that affect displacement. In the past, the main driver of displacement and people movement was conflict and natural disasters. But now we are seeing also climate impact on the way people move in search for better pastures, for example, in search for better opportunities. And this sometimes also creates conflict because they start to compete over resources.
We know that displacement and refugees are a big problem, but how big is the problem? What are the current figures?
The current figures are very high, unprecedented number of forcibly displaced people around the world. 123 million people, that's the figure we are talking about now. We are expecting the figure to go above the 130 thresholds in 2025. And this is really a scary figure. This is much more than 1% of all humanity. But again, it's not the figure itself that's the problem. It's the demographics of the figures that matter. More than 50 to 60% of this total are women and children. 75% of all displaced people live in least developed countries and poor countries, countries that have problems of their own. The average years of protracted displacement has now reached more than 23 years. So you are talking about a generation, people who are displaced for life. There are people who are born in refugee camps, live in refugee camps, get married in refugee camps, and give birth to refugee children. During the last 5 years, we witnessed the birth of 2 million children in displacement. So the figures are really appalling, and the world needs to do something to deal with the root causes that drive people to flee for their life.
If we want to talk about solutions rather than problems, do you find that this view that climate change initiatives could make people stay and could create a better life for people, could be a tipping point for the solution of the problem of displacement and refugees?
For one part of the problem, yes. But we have to bear in mind that it's not only climate change that forces people to leave. As I mentioned, conflict is still the number one driver. And if we find ways to deal with the root causes of conflict, if we find ways to deal with the root causes of climate change, this offers a lot of hope because nobody wants to be displaced. I mean, let's be frank. People want to be in their own countries. They want to be in their homes. Nobody leaves home willingly. They leave home because they have to, because they must. But if they have opportunities, if home for them is conducive, if they can live without being persecuted, then they will not leave. So we need to deal with the root causes. And I think the hope in that context is that the world has started to realize that without dealing with the root causes, we will never reach the SDGs. We will definitely leave a large segment of the world population behind, and it affects everybody. We are living in the same small world. So whatever happens in one country has ripple impacts on others.
Do you feel it's almost a problem that this has been too much presented as a political problem rather than a more complex one?
It's both. And politics are behind a lot of the problems we are dealing with in the humanitarian world. Because most of the large problems we are now dealing with are political issues. Ukraine is a problem, is a political problem. It's not a natural disaster. Yemen, Sudan, Palestine, the Rohingya crisis, all of those are so many problems in Africa and the African continent. They are political problems. And we need to agree that they are political problems that require political solutions. They cannot be solved or resolved by humanitarians and development actors alone. They have to work with politicians to find solutions for those problems.
You have been working with humanitarian relief for many years. How has your work changed in the last decade or so?
I think in the past we used to deal with localized problems. So a problem that happens in one country affects one population. Now we are seeing a spillover impact. Problems are becoming more complex and more regional and global, which carries also an opportunity because everybody realizes that they need to play a role, that we are all in this. So it's not that my country is far. Climate will affect you as well. Climate change that happens on the other side of the world will also affect you. So I think we are seeing a better understanding of international happenings and international problems, international crises, but we need to see a better way for dealing with those.
So now that you say that there is an understanding, what is it we need?
We need to think of better solutions, durable solutions, alternative solutions. The old way of doing things is not working anymore. We are all talking about innovation now, and this is one of the sectors that I lead in the organization. I, for example, lead the Islamic philanthropy team and innovative partnerships. And we are trying to find co-designed solutions with people that we work with, localized solutions, and to think outside the box, even if that's a cliche. But yes, we need to think outside the box because everything is happening outside the box. And we need to find better solutions, new actors, things that we were not working with in the past is now offering a lot of better solutions that are based on equity. And that's why it is being adopted as a model. It doesn't mean that it works only for Muslim countries or for Muslims. It is a model that can be applied anywhere to achieve better equity and equality.
If you could choose one thing, one impact to happen after the COP16, what would it be?
I would hope for tailored solutions that really address the weaknesses of communities and the countries and avoid the generalizations. Because general agendas and the general big tickets sometimes leave certain countries behind and certain communities behind. So if there is one thing that I personally, as a scholar practitioner, would like to see from an event like COP16 is really a focus on tailored solutions for specific needs by communities and countries.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalifa.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.